We are back. Second time in 3 days. And Sarah, we've been trying to do this for like a month, and you've got parade stuff with Brutus. So we're a little overdue, but we're doing it.
Finally, I've been looking forward to this.
Well, I literally made the. So was just telling you this, but like as soon as you won, I'm like, okay, you're obviously coming back on. And I started making some notes. And as soon as I made that one graphic, the Sarah Hildebrandt just never gave up. I'm like, well, that's the podcast title. Like that. Sometimes I'll wait and see what people say, and then it's like you pull something, and that's how you frame it. I'm like, no, this is the narrative. Like legacy media setting the narrative. Here we go. So I told you, I'm like, there's so many different directions we can go to. I think when you do something like win the Olympics. It's funny. I told you I was just watching the finals match, and Burroughs said at the end, he's like, welcome to the club. Your life's forever changed. Like, you're an Olympic champ now. So first, I guess this last month, and by the way, I am also very happy that we're waiting to do this because I sometimes, when something's so fresh, like your interview right after, like there was some good stuff that I want to talk about, but still, you haven't processed nothing. Now you've had a month.
Right. Which I still haven't processed it. No.
It might take some time. Yeah. So how's this past month been?
It's been really chaotic in a really good way. I think I overestimated the amount of like energy I was going to have, and I kind of put a lot of stuff on my schedule before even the Olympics happened. And I thought I was being proactive and kind of like avoiding post-Olympic come down. When in reality, I needed to just like sit. And so I've been running around, and it's been good, but I finally am home for like the longest stretch I've been home since, like July, since literally before I left. So that's been nice. And it's nice to start feeling some like life back into me, because coming down from the Olympics, obviously, and then coming out of a weight cut and getting out of your usual routine, it's all a little funky, weird. So it's feeling like myself.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to bring this up later in the conversation, but that's a good segue. You had mentioned how, one of these things that leading to Olympics you were working on was processing emotion. And it's funny you say that, like the come down, because you hear about like the post-Olympic blues and the post-Olympic depression. Even as fans, I was just about to tweet out, like, I miss the Olympics. Like, the excitement, the what-ifs, the questions, the there's the pageantry to it all, and there's so much. I'm curious what led to you kind of working on processing your emotions like that.
Yeah, like in general, or just like through this last, like after the Olympics?
I'd say in general, because I know that was a big thing leading into the Olympics, and obviously you've have carried that through after, but leading up to it, I know it was a big thing for you.
No, totally. It was honestly everything, and it's funny because I didn't seek out like with the knowledge like you need to feel more, you know what I mean? But I did know that I wanted things to change after 2021, and as I kind of started just allowing myself to feel my emotions without judging them, to just kind of allow anything to bubble up and not judge that, and not try to change it, not try to force a certain emotion on me. I realized what I had been doing for the last 10, 12 years had been numbing my emotions. And once I kind of had that revelation, it was like, oh my gosh, girl, basically what this is just allowing yourself to feel. There's no judgment, there's no to try to change tracks or work against the universe, like feel it. And so once I kind of had that revelation, it was like I could kind of name it and then just funnel and believe in that path. So it really, and then that takes years of work, and I'm still working on it. Accept your emotions. Like, it's very difficult, it's very uncomfortable, but ultimately 100% is what I feel like led to success at the Olympics, because hell of emotions come up during that moment, and you're just like, okay, this is what I feel. It doesn't have to impact my actions.
And it's crazy because I was thinking about the other day, because part of what my marketing agency does is we deal with social media a lot, and I was just talking to somebody about how it's funny how many times we think whether something's wrong or just different. So many times you're watching someone's life, and then all of a sudden you're like, you literally were on in 2021, I think before Worlds, and I would have never guessed that, oh, Sarah needs to go work on processing emotions. You know what I mean? Like, you're always happy, you're bubbly, like it's one reason I love doing this podcast is because people bring these things up, and then other athletes look at it, or even non-athletes. I'm sure there's somebody listening right now. It's not an athlete, like, oh, hey, maybe I'm bottling this up, not processing it. So I thought that was interesting. And then, heading into the Olympics, it's funny because right out of the gate, your weight was one of the most interesting weights of the entire tournament because so much happened. You not only have Susaki go down in the first round, you then have everything with Vinesh the next day. Shout out Indian Twitter, by the way. I think that was like my best day of the year because I rallied behind her and they were supportive of me supporting her. So that was cool. But so you had all these, like, if you want to talk about maybe most emotional weights, like 50 kg women's freestyle was a roller coaster. So right out of the gate, I'm sure you were locked in, but hard to miss Susaki going down, who maybe one of the biggest favorites in the entire Olympics. Like, if you
Absolutely.
talk about how much she had accomplished and her accolades, nobody would have saw that coming. Did you kind of see that happen and process there? Like, what was that like as it happened?
Yeah, it was definitely chaotic. So she's the top of the bracket. So she was the first match for the 50 kilos, and I was the bottom of the bracket. So I was still back in the warm up outing area. There's TVs back there so you can see the matches that are happening. So I'm just kind of doing my warm up. I like to keep it pretty lighthearted, just dance and have some fun, hang out with my brother. But she goes down and she loses, and that place erupts like so crazy. Like, people are celebrating. Like, I see women in my weight class celebrating, and I see my coaches kind of like start to get really excited, and I turned to them and I was like, stop. I'm like, enough. I'm like, we're not celebrating. I didn't come here to wrestle her. I came to wrestle the person in front of me.
Yep.
And we can't get wrapped up in the emotion of her going down. Like, that's not what we came here to do. I didn't come here just to
Yep.
beat you. That's who I have to beat. I will.
Yep.
So I wanted my coaches to keep a level head, and they were. And immediately, they kind of caught themselves. They're like, yeah, you're right. And so we kind of just kept to ourselves. But I could see some of the other girls in my weight, like, really, really celebrating. And I kind of like just pocketed that away as like, they're caught up in that. Like, they're not focused, or they're the emotion of that is going to carry them maybe in some way. And who knows if that's the case or not, but I knew for myself that would be. So we just kind of, what, that's that. Now let's wrestle the girl in front of me. But then on the other side of that, I'd be lying if there was thoughts that immediately started popping up in my head of like, this is yours now, girl, don't mess it up. Like, so allowing that to all come up and be like, oh, okay, I do feel this way. That's fine. That's cool. That's normal. What are some effective actions I can take in the present moment? This is just some happening right here next to me. It's not necessarily like now going to change everything that I'm doing or worked on, and just kind of allowing those thoughts to float up and float on, and not just like totally derail me.
Yeah. And, you had that great 10-0 match first round, and then you beat Fang 7-4, and then you beat Mongolia, which was awesome, 5-0. And now, at this point, it's you and Vinesh. And this, again, you talk about storylines, like, what an incredible storyline. Vinesh and everything she's been doing off the mat, there's so much around over the past year. So, it's a name you saw and heard, and it's hard not to root for her. And when it's like, okay, now we turn the tables, we're not really rooting for her no more. It's Sarah. And then Willie, he we were doing shows all week, and so we were texting each other, and we have group chats and stuff. And I woke up at, like, I don't know, 4, whatever it was that morning, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. Vinesh is out. Sarah's champion. And I'm waking up processing this, and I'm like, wait, what? And so now I'm trying to fact check, look everything up. From you waking up, I can't even imagine. Tell me about that morning. Like, what happened?
So it was actually a long and crazy morning. That actually started about 3:30 in the morning. So I had hurt my knee in the semifinals pretty bad.
Okay.
So I wake up about 3:30, and I wasn't really sure where my weight was going to be, but I couldn't even walk. Like I could not stand up. So I was like, shoot, if I have even a little bit of weight to get off, do we need to start now to, because I can't run, I can't even
Right.
walk. But so, actually though, I go and check weight. I'm on weight, which was like amazing, but I can't walk. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just go to the gym and see if I can like slowly bike this out. Like, can I get my knee to just like move a little?
Yeah.
So I head down to the gym in the village. It's open 24/7. And Vinesh is already there. She's cutting weight. And so my coach is already there too. He's like, she's been here since midnight. She's struggling. So like immediately the thought in my head, I'm like, dang, she's going through it. I actually end up leaving because I don't want her to see that I have a bum knee. I'm like, okay, change of plans. We'll just, make it a
Yep.
longer morning or something. So I see that she's kind of having a hard time of it. I end up leaving. I go to weigh-ins. She's still not there. And so she was at the gym, I guess, maybe starting at midnight. Weigh-ins were at 8. So it'd been a really
That's
long night for
crazy.
her. Yeah. And so, by 8 o'clock, I don't see her at the weigh-ins. I'm like, all right, this is a little suspect. You would imagine she wants to be first in line. Like, obviously, I was there to
Right.
get first. And so we just weigh in. As I'm leaving, her and her coaching staff come like running in, and it's pretty frantic. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she's just like trying to catch the scale in time. Like she still had about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And I'm like, this is too much like chaotic energy. I'm going to leave. I left some coaches and referees there to kind of monitor what was going on, make sure we had eyes on the situation.
Yep.
I go to the cafeteria, get breakfast. I get a call. She misses weight. You're Olympic champion. And I'm like, let's, double check this.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't know how to feel about it. Um, Probably about 15, 20 minutes later, which was like the longest 15, 20 minutes of my
Oh my
life.
gosh, can you imagine?
People are like trying to talk to me, and I'm like, I literally cannot even fake it. Like there was so much
Right.
energy. I'm just like
Yep.
pacing. And I didn't even know what I wanted it to be. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
wrestle, but then, I want to freaking win. Like there's
Right.
so much bubbling up, and that's like, I don't even know what I want it to be. Like, what answer do I want? Anyway, I get a call about 20 minutes later, confirmed, this was confirmed from USA Wrestling, UWW. There were lawyers on this call. There were so many people involved in this. They're like, yes, you're good. I'm like, sweet. All right, I guess we win. I, this is my story, I guess. Like, so I deliver the news to my family. I start getting texts. I'm talking to media people about how we proceed from here. Like things start moving very quickly.
Yep.
Uh, I go to my room to just kind of decompress, decide what the day is going to look like. About an hour and a half after that initial call, Terry Steiner calls me, and he's like, bring your shoes tonight. You're wrestling Cuba. And I'm like, bro, thank God I didn't pop bottles of champagne. Like,
Right. Oh, that would have been funny. Like you like drink 2 glasses of champagne, you show up to wrestle. Like, okay.
it probably would have had my knee feeling nice. No.
Yeah.
A whole nother side of it. Like my knee was really bad. So the idea of not wrestling was like, oh my God, did I just get like a gift? Because I still couldn't really walk at that point. Like, we were just faking it to get on the scale, like trying to hide the limp. So now, things got serious very quickly. It was like, we need to get this girl's knee working. And, our timeline had shrunk because what I initially was planning on doing when I thought I was wrestling had, timelines had passed by then. So
Right.
we expedite a lot of stuff. And get back on it. I hadn't really slept the night before, so we had to get sleep in. We had to get quality food in. We had to get a lot of rehab in for my leg and workouts just to get the body feeling nice. So there was a lot that we had to kind of squeeze in at that point, and it had just went from very like a lot of excitement, a lot of tears, a lot of emotion of accomplishing something, and then very quickly it's like, okay, well now you could still lose this.
Yeah.
It was
Which the
scary.
entire world was ready to revolt. I speak on behalf of the entire world, if Cuba wins after losing a match, we were already all set to absolutely revolt. Like, yeah, I mean, that was just we were ready to revolt there. Did you have to change your game plan from, like, you know, were you game planning after the semis, like for Vinesh specifically, and then you have Guzman, who you've already beat, you 10-0'd her last year, like even, I think you've said this before, but like, you can wrestle somebody, beat them 10-0 in a minute, but in the Olympic finals, that match is always going to look different. Like, anything can happen. It's one match. Did you kind of have to switch up your game plan or your thoughts as far as the match goes?
To be fair, not a ton. Like, I obviously had, so the way I kind of game plan opponents is divide them into tiers, you know, like top tier, middle tier, and then bottom tier. And so I just have loose notes on everybody, but, you know, obviously a little bit more for the top tier, and then it trickles
Sure.
down. So I had obviously had game plans for all of them, and tendencies and notes on everybody. And so when it was Vinesh, you know, I went immediately to the notes and our game planning, and I had actually
Yep.
spent a lot of time focused on Vinesh than Guzman. Um, but I still had spent time and I'd wrestled them. So once it switched, I just kind of like switched those notes up in my head. But then on top of that, yeah, there's the pressure of it being the Olympics, and now there's this pressure of, you know, you text her last time, like, this should be an easy match for you, like all of this stuff, like the pressure was definitely there. So just competing with that um, as well as with a bum knee, and as well as with like everything on the line, right? She's a
I
talented
know.
opponent.
Well,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I was telling you, like, rewatching the match, it's so funny because when you rewatch a match, and it's really different when you're rooting as a fan for somebody with a vested interest for whatever reason, whether they're a friend, a client, a teammate, whatever it is, there's always that added, like, nerves that you just can't describe. And then when you rewatch it, it's completely different. You're watching it from whether it's a technical standpoint or this or that. Like, you watch it completely different. And when you don't hit the lace, it's like, oh no,
Oh
like,
no.
is this gonna matter? Rewatching it, it's like, she's got this. It doesn't matter. But it's crazy because it's just one match. Anything can happen, and we've seen it where somebody beats somebody that's maybe not supposed to. And, you know, as I'm kind of going through the notes and preparing for this conversation, it's funny because I'm like, I typed out, so you finally win, and the roller coaster is over. You step off. Susaki goes down. Vinesh misses weight. You beat Guzman in the finals. All these crazy things. And then I'm like, wait a minute. The minute that match is over, you're now Olympic champ. The roller coaster's just starting. Like, you're not hopping off the ride of the weekend, because now it's like, now you're really an Olympic champ for the second time that day.
For the second time. That's what I said when I went to collect the flag. They're like, you won the Olympics twice in one day. I'm like, let's go.
I know. I was joking that I forgot who I told you, you're a 3-time Olympic medalist.
Yeah. I'm taking that. But can they give me 2 gold medals?
Right. So it is, you know, it is such an incredible story. And not to make this about me, but Baschamania is like a fun side project that I've been around the sport for so long. I've worked with so many great athletes, have so many great relationships with so many of you. And because I own a marketing agency, kind of putting out graphics is just something we can do to help the sport. And some graphics are just, no disrespect to any of the athletes. Like, we just put one out that Michael Kemmerer got hired at Minnesota. Congrats, Kem. Awesome, back in the Big Ten. Not really an emotional thing to make a graphic. But when I'm thinking of certain things, it's like, and for you after you won gold, it's like, okay, I'm going through your career in my head. And a lot of times with athletes, sometimes their legacy can become, right or wrong, like, oh, they can't win the big one, or oh, they were always just there. And I'm like, man, sometimes that's just God's plan. That's just, it is what it is. Not everybody's going to be Olympic champ. Not everybody's going to be NCAA champ. And for you, like, you got that moment of fulfillment, but it's not without that perseverance. Like, silver medal, and then you do not place, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and then you get Olympic bronze, and then you get silver, bronze, gold. And I could spend an hour pulling things out of just that, because it's like your perseverance over your entire career. And by the way, medals are just very like surfacey. That's just perseverance that we can chart via data. If you look at injuries and relationships and things that you have behind the scenes, I'm sure what medal you won and didn't win doesn't scratch the surface with the perseverance. But for you, what was it like? You have all these ups and downs over these last 7-8 years, and then you finally get gold. Was it that sense of like fulfillment from, oh my gosh? And because when you saw the graphic, you texted me, you're like, I'm crying. You know, like, good.
Yeah.
Like, good tears.
Yeah, that graphic tore me up. Like, I don't know. Like, that was what was going through my head when I won, was like how often I kept coming up short. And like the amount of times, like standing on the podium was so emotional for me, because I had stood on the step below so many times and just like looked at that girl who was standing in the gold medal spot, and just like it was so painful. And so when you had posted that graphic, I was like, yes, like, this is what I feel, like all of this.
It was the most engaged graphic for the entire month, by the way.
Oh, let's go.
It was the most engaged, the most liked. It was tens of thousands of likes, like 13, 15, something like that, thousand. Like, people resonated. And that's what's so cool too, is like, you know, it's one thing when we can make a graphic and put it out and it's, you know, informative and trying to engage people from just, you know what's going on. But the amount of people you're influencing in your message of never giving up is crazy. And we don't often, we sometimes don't see the end result or look back. So for example, where I'm going with this is 2019, you do not place at Worlds. Had you won, you would have been in the finals the next year, or had you medaled, you would have been in the finals next year. You would have maybe never went down to 50, and you would have never won an Olympic gold. It is crazy that, and this has happened in my life with business, with relationships, but look at that, like, I didn't see why this happened for 5 years. That's crazy.
No, absolutely. And I think that's such a cool part of this story, and in a lot of stories. And just like, I think a really good takeaway is just like having that courage to keep stepping forward despite not knowing what's going to happen, and just for, to keep chasing whatever it is you're chasing, to like improve yourself.
Yep.
And that courage, like, eventually it will all, this timeline, this history that you have, that you look back on, like, it will all lead you somewhere beyond what your mind is even capable of dreaming up in the present moment.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I was obviously going to be Olympic champion at 50 kilos. Like, that wasn't what I was thinking. That wasn't part of my plan. That wasn't what I was journaling about. Like, to an extent it was, but not so detailed in that way. And so I think that's really what perseverance is about, like having this courage to just keep stepping up. Like, you don't know what's the future holds. You can't even dream it up. Like, I think we have a tendency to dream up only these like horrible worst case scenarios, but really you can't even dream up these amazing, life-changing things that will happen if you just, that courage to keep kind of showing up for yourself, showing up for your dreams. It doesn't mean, just because it's unknown doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, that it's bad that's going to wait for you. And even if those bad things come up, it's likely just part of catapulting you further.
And that's what people don't do. And I've started doing it myself with different things over the years, where it's like something happens now, something bad can happen. And after, I feel like I'm so old, I'm almost 40, and I feel like I'm like 70 because of the fact that it's like something happens and I'm like, it's all right. God's going to work this to good. Or, it's all right. I'm going to use this to minister something to somebody else. And it's like, you don't think, imagine what Sarah Hildebrandt would have journaled to herself if in 2019 you don't place at medal at Worlds, and you open up your journal and it just says, hey, don't worry, you're good. 2024, you're going to win Olympic gold at 50 kilos. First you'd be like, wait a minute, 5 years? Nah, I'm good.
Forever.
but it does you would look at it differently had you known the outcome. You don't know the outcome. You have to stay the course. And I think when you talk about your career, that's one thing you've always done, and you've never really shied away from those core tendencies of, like you just said, showing up for yourself. And there's a lot of people who get discouraged because one tournament doesn't go your way or this or that. And we hear these stories, and it's like, now it's that deep sigh of relief for you. But look at how many years it was before you saw something like 2019 Worlds come to fruition. Crazy.
Right. No, exactly. It blows my own mind. And it was nice though to see, like, 2019 me was very fixated on results, fixated on medals. And
Yep.
2020 you had finally released a lot of that external, like, validation of, or like goals of like medals and things like that. And that took a long time. It took a lot of failures.
Yep.
So I think, when I could finally find that really like fine balance of being obsessed with the medal and not needing the medal,
Mm-hmm.
it was so healthy for me. And it took a lot of reflection. It took a lot of, you know, deciding why I was doing this, what's important to me, what's the woman I want to look like and be like, and just kind of separating everything from that medal. But like my actions, like my wrestling practices and things like that, they could still be in favor and in, like, I want this gold medal, but I don't need this gold medal. And so
Yeah.
what do I need? I need to be, the best Sarah I can possibly be. And that's where I'm going to pour a lot of my hope and heart and energy into.
Yeah. And it was too, like when it did come to fruition, it's like, I literally think I started making that graphic when you were on the medal stand, and I think I called my wife into the room or something. I'm like, this is like, I think my top 3 medal stand reactions are probably you, Helen in 2016, and Burroughs one year at Worlds. I think it's like 2013 or one of those. But like those 3, there's so much, like, it's like Helen's reaction when she beat Yoshida, and she's almost like just surprised at herself. Like, how are you surprised? You just did it, But there's like that out of body, out of mind experience. What was that like being on the medal stand, where it's like I've never seen such a raw, genuine, like they went to hand you the box and the medal, and you're like, wait, what? It was such a genuine reaction.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. I get so many comments from people like, you're the happiest gold medalist we've ever seen. I'm like, why? Like, how is that the case?
Isn't it crazy to think about? Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it was seriously like, I could not even try to act any other way if I wanted to. Like, it truly was just like so much excitement and happiness and gratitude, and not like there's some like unbelievable like holy cow. I couldn't even just help but just like emoting anything and everything. It was just seriously.
There we go. I just pulled it up on the screen. Shout out Tony Rotundo capturing this. I mean, I would have, like, this would be in my living room, like a movie poster. I think is 27 by 40. It's just like a sideways movie poster. I mean, it's truly one of those things where it's like, I feel like too we don't get many chances to see other people achieve their dreams, and then or the reaction often is like behind the scenes. But you're right there. Everybody's seeing it. That was just. I do think too. Wrestling is its own little cult. That moment, if like you're a soccer player or something, I swear would have been everywhere across the world for a month. It's crazy how different the world treats like niche sports like wrestling.
Totally. But as like I get a little shy with attention sometimes, so I'll take just the whole niche wrestling world. That's plenty.
So a couple random Olympic tidbits. One, I was like processing this when I just went back and watched the finals match. Having fans at these Olympics versus the last one. People forget that, myself included, the 2020 Olympics in 2021 was like no fans, COVID masks, all these things. Like, it had to be that much better now having fans, and better that you won bronze with no fans and gold with fans.
Oh my gosh, I really, I couldn't have scheduled it better if I had tried. It was seriously so, the fans, listen, okay, I feel like they showed out too. I think there were actually a lot of fans there, at least on my day, that weren't necessarily wrestling fans. They're just like the Parisian public came and they had tickets and they're like watching. But because it did feel different than like even world championships, like
Yeah.
the Chiefs did, in a good way. It was rowdy in there and the arena was so cool. It was like the perfect size. But I remember before my quarterfinals match, they were doing this like collective clap and it was shaking like the walls where we were waiting on. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Like my heart was in my throat. And then again for my semifinals match, like the whole stadium was like chanting like USA, and I was so nervous. Like it's the middle of the match, I can hear them chanting USA. I wanted to like be like time out, and be like, guys, shush, everyone close your eyes, everyone. I'm so nervous right now, but it was so cool too, especially
Yeah.
after winning the semifinals match. It was like I almost blacked out from how like hype I was, and the fans were hype, and like just cheering with them, and obviously having my family there was just so special. So that was the coolest thing ever. The difference between Tokyo Olympics and Paris Olympics is like insane. I feel so grateful that I got to experience another one that's more traditional.
Yeah. No, it was definitely cool to see that. Like, it's when we look back now in history, even NCAA's and other events with no fans, it's like, can we run it back and give them fans? Like, that's such a. And the Olympics are funny because, who was it? Clay Steadman, I think, was, he's on the Penn State staff. He's there for wrestling. But because you're there for such a long time, he was at like beach volleyball one day. He was at this sport the next, because you're there. So what are you going to do? You don't have that at the World Championships. When you're at the Worlds, you're there for a smaller amount of time and for something specific. Whereas here, it's like, well, I'm here, so I guess we'll go to, Normandy this day, and then let's go to the volleyball the next day. It's crazy.
So much fun. It's so cool. I'm sad I didn't get to go see any other sports, but it's neat to have people bounce around, or even like, I know there were some women rugby players at my match, and I like Flow Wrestling. I posted something about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I never felt cooler than like knowing other athletes came watching me.
Yeah. Speaking of your family being there, so while at this point you're probably my favorite Hildebrandt, I do have another one I like a lot. His name's Drew. And Penn State fans, a lot of Penn State fans listen to this podcast. They know who Drew is. And Drew was with you training. How cool was that to have him there? And what was that like for you, where it wasn't just a standard training partner? Like, you got your brother with you there.
No, it's seriously amazing. Such like a game-changing thing. And like for somebody to do that, my sister also did the same thing for me in 2020. So both of them being able to like kind of put their lives and careers on hold and to come help me is like so selfless. And it's hard to wrap my mind around how like amazing that is. But seriously, having Drew there was everything. Like people are familiar with him or know him. He is just like such a vibe. He's just so low key and fun, chill. And like, that's exactly what I needed. I don't need help being serious. I very, very serious in the practice room. So I wanted somebody to kind of pull me, if he was more on the playful end, that would kind of balance me out. And it was like, he just offered so much perspective of like, this isn't about gold medals or takedowns or perfect technique. Like, he just, at the end of the day, like, my family's still there, and we get to share this amazing experience together, and get closer and just kind of take all of this in. It's like such a huge life experience, obviously. So to share that in that way was like, it was a constant relief from some of the pressure and stress of like, obviously what the Olympics brings up. So that was so cool. And, we just had so much fun. It was seriously the best time of my life.
And, not only is that fun, but it is absolutely crazy how good Japan is right now. They are just, they're different worldly. And the day before you go and win gold, Elor wins gold. And as somebody who's actually, by the way, literally just DMing me about her coming on the podcast, we're trying to make it work. Much like Sarah, she's had a crazy schedule, so she is on deck to come on the podcast soon. But how cool was that for her to win gold and give you kind of that momentum heading into you competing?
Oh, that's everything. I mean, I was so excited we were starting with the meet because obviously she's a powerhouse, and I thought it would be great momentum. And then, for me to follow directly up with that, that was, to follow her performance up, like I could feel, I was inspired. I felt good about it. And it's like, that's real. Like that energy in that belief, like, oh my gosh, you see somebody do it, you can feel that. And I mean, like Helen started it in 2016, like finally an American woman through, like we all kind of realized in that moment, like, yes, this is something we can do. Look, she beat a Japanese woman to do this. Like, and then, you can feel that Tamara does it in 2020. And then, just feel it so directly after the very next day was like, I got to go. And so I could carry that energy and that belief into my wrestling. And I absolutely did. And so then to double our, gold medal count and just, the first 2 days of the Olympics, 3 days of the Olympics, it's like, that's just so insane. It's so cool.
It's wild. And, since I started this podcast, and it largely started because I was having my friends and my clients on the show, and that led to more and more. And I've always kind of gone down that path of sharing information around those that I know. And when there's a cry for more coverage for, let's say, women's wrestling or Greco, I was always beating the drum of that comes with the success. Right now, one of Greco's struggles is I can share out as much information as I want. If there's no medals, it's very hard to get good substance to rally around. And these last 8 years, what has happened in women's wrestling is largely due to the dominance you guys have had. I mean, you have and Amit that win gold, and like you said, double all the golds American has had in women's wrestling. And then you have Kennedy, who's right there, wins silver. You have Helen, who wins another Olympic gold. There's so many stars in wrestling, and that's what truly helps something grow. It's not, oh, just watch women's wrestling because it's there. Just watch Greco because it's there. People want to watch winners, and people want storylines. And the storyline of you, silver, do not place, bronze, silver, like that's the storylines that help shape the sport. And for you, we talked about this the last time you were on in 2021, but for you being a part of this, that helps build the foundation, that gives people like me content to talk about. Like, you guys are at the forefront of truly helping women's wrestling grow like it has. What has that been like for you? And in real time, have you kind of realized, like, wow, we're really doing something that's pretty cool?
Not really. Like, it's so, I think I'm somewhat very zoomed in to my goals. So it's like hard sometimes to step back and be like, holy cow. I think also, there's just been so many women who have given so much for me, and my path kind of helped pave it. And so to me, that's like, who has done this for all of women's wrestling, and there'll always be my goals in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it's just like something like when I go to my hometown where I was the only women's wrestler on the team, one of 3 in the whole entire state. And I'm greeted by my high school wrestling team that has 40 women on it. And my sister's now the head coach of. It's like, holy cow, like, look how much this has grown. And, it's just so cool to see that, like, girls coming up to me and being like, oh, you inspired me to try this. It's like, it never stops being a shock. It never stops, like, filling my heart up so much. Like, it's so cool just to have that and be a part of that. And I think once I'm done with my career, I hope I can look back and kind of see maybe my hand in my little role that I played in it. But really, it is so cool just to be a part of it all, and just to feel that inspiration, even from the girls who are up and coming, just saying that I'm their inspiration, like how that feeds me and motivates me, and it just blows my mind, really. But it's so insane to watch it just rocket and explode.
It does have to make you feel like you're aging a bit, because you're
Yeah,
getting young girls. As you're still a young girl, you're getting younger girls coming that are coming up to you like, you're my hero. You paved the path. And you're like, what? I thought I was still on the path watching Helen. What do you mean?
exactly. No, it really hit me when, like, to make this team and to make the world team in 2023, I wrestled Audrey Jimenez. So I've been wrestling longer than she's been alive. So that really was when it hit me. I remember I was doing the dishes and I was like, man, like, she just is at home. Like, she lives with her family still. Like, this was so hard to put, like, it blew my mind. I'm like, here I am, like, doing my, I have to, like, house stuff I need to take care of, and
Right.
branding list of, like, owning a home, and I'm like, this girl is just a kid, like, she has school. It's like so strange to think of.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, we see that even with the men this week in the World Team Trials, where you have some of these young guns, Jax Forrest and Marcus Blaze and all these guys that are kids that are 17, 18 years old, and then you have Jordan Burroughs 36 years old making the team, and like it's like, but it does Willie and I talked about this when we were recapping this weekend. It does kind of put into perspective that changing of the guard when you see all these retirements, and at the same time you see Bo Bassett, you see Marcus Blaze, you see Jax Forrest, you see Audrey Jimenez, and you kind of feel like that next changing of the guard is happening in real time, and it does make you feel, if nothing else, it makes you feel like you're aging. You're like, I'm not that old yet. What's with these young cats?
Sports world is so weird. Like, you will have, like, I feel so old because in some regard I am constantly told, like, oh my gosh, you're the veteran, you're old. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm this old woman. And then when I look at my life outside of sport, I'm like, I'm young. I could do so many things. I still have so much adventure. My life is not over. Oh my God. But, like, you do get kind of zoomed in this idea that you're, like, so old. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 30. I'll be Monday, but so just craziness.
I know. I'm 38. My wife turned 30, and she was like pouting a little bit. The 30 is a big number. And I remember before her birthday, she's like, I can't believe I'm turning 30. I'm like, do you know what I would give to turn 30 again? Like, to get 8 years back? Like, 30 is nothing. I still feel young at this age. So I am sure that Audrey and others maybe kind of want you out because they want their spot. Do you know what you're going to do next right now? Have you kind of made that decision yet?
No, I haven't. I will say I won't be at 50 kilos. So I'll be departing from 50 if I do keep competing. But I'm really just taking it like moment by moment and just still, it's like frustrating in some sense. I thought that by now I'd have at least like a leaning towards one or the other, like not competing anymore or still competing. And I truly don't feel one way or another. I watched World Team Trials last weekend and I didn't feel like FOMO or anything. Like, I wasn't like, I wish I was out there. Like, I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's cool to see these people wrestling and I'm supporting them. So, like, that was different than something I've ever felt before. So, maybe I'm still tired. I feel like wrung out, not in a bad way, but just like extended. Like, I gave everything I had and I'm tired. And so just kind of letting myself rest and, kind of discovering myself and how I move my body and how I eat and how I live my life outside of weigh-ins or a calendar or what a coach is telling me to do. Like, I want to explore that. And if that tells me still compete, then I'll absolutely still compete.
And it is, by the way, like, while it feels like the Olympics were eons ago, it was a month ago. It was literally last month. We're in September. Like, it was only in August. Because I feel the same way. Like, the World Team Trials happen in, covering the sport, like, this year goes so quick because of the fact that it's like you go from the college season to the Open to the Olympic trials to the Olympics to World Team Trials to World Championships, the college season. These years, the Olympic years are crazy. And it doesn't, it's like, I was looking up the other day who won the Olympic or who won NCAAs. I forgot which weight I forgot, but I had a blank. I'm like, let me look it up. And I looked up the 2024 NCAA championship results. And I'm like, oh no, that was last year's. I'm like, oh no, that was this year.
Oh my God, you just saying that, I'm like, did NCAA championships happen yet? Like, that's what was going through.
You know? It's crazy. It's wrestling years are kind of like dog years. It's just like you can't tell me it was only a month ago. So do you know when you want to make a decision by? Like, are you training right now, or are you just kind of going with it and you'll make a decision when the time comes?
I'm not gonna put a timeline on it, but I am still like sporadically training, which is fine with me.
Yep.
My travel schedule is insane, so it's naturally kind of keeping me out of the room, which I
Yep.
think is like I kind of need somebody to hold my hand and drag me out of there, or else I'll rush back in and fall back before
Yep.
you know I'm doing what we've always been doing. And I think it's important for me to sit, as uncomfortable as it is, like to sit in this unknown spot. And I think I'll learn a lot about myself instead of just like jumping back into my usual routine. And it kind of like distracts you from what you want and what you truly want and what you need to feel and experience and go through, like by just getting and going back through the motions, like
Yeah.
just doing what I've always done. So I think I need a little bit of the unknown to kind of like give me some clarity, and I kind of got to sit there a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna rush back to my normal routine because I think it will just kind of distract me from very quality time of like just sitting with this unknown.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I need surgeries. I need, do we need to get with a competition plan? Like, there's certain things I need to do if I'm going to compete at world championships next year. So there is somewhat of a timeline there, but at the same time, if no answer is coming up, that's an answer in itself. And I'll just kind of keep following that through.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is you might not know the answer, but we saw it and we see it with like Dake and Taylor and some others who, they win the worlds. You're in Final X. You're one of the best in the world. You don't need to compete as often, especially if you're not a maniac like Snyder, or someone who just, he loves the sport so much he just wants to compete every opportunity. If somebody challenged Snyder in his backyard, he'd probably go do it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, if you went next year, like, do you know if you would do the whole, like, let me go to the Asar Dogu and let me go to this tournament, or would you just show up to Worlds and the Final X and be like, you know what, I can do what I want?
Yeah, I think it would be more like that. I definitely competed a lot less this last year, and it was healthy for me. It was good for me. But I think a lot of that driving factor was the weight cut is a lot. It's a lot of effort. So it's hard to show up to even just 4 tournaments in a year, making 50 kilos, even with like a 2-kilo allowance. Sometimes that takes a lot of effort for me
Yeah.
and, energy. So obviously not going 50 kilos would change things. I think, I'd feel it's a lot easier to just kind of step on the scale, wrestle what I weigh. With that said, if I'm leaving 50 kilos, I no longer have the sit out spot for
That's
World
true. I was
Team
just thinking about that.
That adds in a lot more tournaments naturally, just on the domestic side. So I don't know if I would need to also throw in a bunch of international stuff. I just don't know if that would fit with how I'm trying to wrestle and my schedule and all of that. I think I'm okay competing less, but who knows? I don't know what kind of energy is going to burst out of me when I'm like this well-fed human being. It's a whole new world. So maybe I'm just wrestling every other week.
And you don't have to make a decision. That's the beauty of it. Like, you don't really have to. There's nothing forcing you. It's a healthy place to be, where you're not like, let me make a decision right now. Take your time, decompress from the Olympics. And, listen, you already won medals at 50 and 53. Maybe just go up to 55. Just
This is like such a vibe. I'm totally not against that in any way.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was that you wanted something so bad when you were cutting weight at the Olympics. Maybe it was a bowl of cereal. I can't remember what it was, but I was just laughing. Like, I wrestled and I was no good, so the amount of times I had to cut weight was nothing like this. But I remember cutting weight, and it sucks when you have that like specific craving. It was something weird, like cornflakes, or it was something.
Cornflakes. I was just going to say, was it cornflakes?
Yeah. You're like, it had to be like less than a week out. You're like, man, the craving I have right now for. Yeah.
Disturbing. Like what? Like cornflakes, dry old cornflakes. Like no eat that while they're cutting weight. But it's like I woke up with this. I was on Pinterest, like looking at cornflake, like things that had cornflakes. I'm like, what is going? I was like, I'm an Indiana girl. The corn is in my heart and soul.
I'm gonna have to change the episode of this title because I'm not a big clickbait guy, but you'll never believe what Sarah Hildebrandt was searching for on Pinterest. Might get a lot of clicks. My wife did make this cheesy potatoes with cornflakes or something. I'm gonna have to look it up because
you could go sweet, you could go savory. Like the recipes that came up, I was like, this is endless. I can make cornflake recipes forever. But like,
can somebody listening just tweet us like next time we go to Wegmans or Whole Foods, just tweet us a picture of cornflakes with no context. Just tweet the box and tag us.
I'm like, I couldn't get over it. Like I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this cornflakes? Like, Sarah, what are you on right now? But whatever, we roll. I still haven't had cornflakes. So clearly
I was just going to ask that, but I didn't want to cut you off again. I was going to say, so have you had the cornflakes since?
No cornflakes, which I'm not even, that doesn't sound at all.
You had a glass of wine. You're like, hey, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I don't know what crazy stuff I was on.
Oh, that's great. All right, so we asked Instagram for some questions. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions. Don't think too hard about them. Just we'll rapid fire. There's a little bit of everything in here. I'm only going to read the good ones because, I mean, there's some people that are just professing their love for you.
Everyone.
I mean, this is literally a question that's literally just, why are you so beautiful? I don't know if that's a friend or a random fan. But, all right, so let's see. What is your favorite TV show?
Oh, Love Island. Or The Great British Bake Off.
Have you ever been to the Backyard Market in Black Forest in Colorado Springs?
No, but it sounds like I should.
Yeah. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Ooh. Well, I mean, either Drew Hildebrandt, which might be a cop-out, but I'm also a big Clarissa Chun fan.
It's hard not to be a fan of Clarissa. I got to have her on the podcast soon. She's on my list of people I need to reach out to.
Yes.
This is kind of a weird question, but when did you realize you jumped levels?
Ooh. It's hard because, like, every time I reflect on the year, like, even from Olympic trials to Olympics, I was like, man, I jumped levels. So it's like, with each reflection, I felt like, there was a moment of jumping. I guess my biggest jump would be in 2018. And that was when I started winning senior events. And I'm like, okay, we're running with the big dogs now.
Which is crazy because then the next year you don't medal. After you feel like, so that's a good golden nugget for somebody. If you feel like you're making strides, it doesn't necessarily depend or reflect on a medal. You can still be getting better. Willie was just saying he thought Chance Marsteller looked like the best version of Chance this weekend, but Jordan Burroughs was that much better. It's not an indicator of chance, so that's a good golden nugget for some people. Let's see. I don't know, best quote from Harper or Man Speaker. I don't know who either of those are.
So Brad Harper who was in my corner for 2020 Olympics. He's my high school coach. And then Man Speaker was one of my high school coaches as well.
Okay, so high school coaches.
High school. Oh my gosh. Harper probably has endless amount of quotes, but he's a swirl at Yahweh. He'd be saying that all the time.
I had my high school coach on, and it was funny because I wrestled in 2000, 2004, and it was just a completely different climate. And the things he said, we probably can't repeat. And so I was, I was bringing him up the podcast, and we were talking about it after. I'm like, I wanted to bring up this and this and this, but I thought that's best to just leave alone. Who has been your top 2 domestic opponents that have pushed you here in the States?
Victoria Anthony for sure. Getting ready for her in 2021 and 2020, I suppose. Absolutely was a huge driving opponent. Gosh, I mean, there's so many, like, pushes me so much. It's been nice sitting in the finals and kind of getting that, knowing who I'm going to have like a month or so in advance. Audrey obviously pushed me in a lot of different ways. Haley Algello I was once wrestling her. Victoria Anthony, Alyssa Lampy, like these people all super, when I'm preparing for them on the domestic side, like that's who I'm preparing for. And so they've all added something to my progression as a wrestler.
Any plans to go pro WWE?
No. No plans. Sorry.
Sorry to that, reader listener. Let's see. Will you have a clinic for freestyle open to collegiate wrestlers?
I mean, I'm hoping to do more clinics. I'm like the worst about it though, because I've always been very picky about my training schedule, but now hopefully it's a little more open and I'm a little less tight. Get some clinics out there.
Gilbert asked if we can count you in for LA 2026 Olympics. Number 1, we just kind of talked about our future, but number 2, Gilbert, LA is 2028. Not
2026, maybe more so.
Yeah.
2028, I don't know.
Let's see. Somebody asked how your vacation in Japan was. That's very thoughtful.
Oh, that is thoughtful. It was.
That was good. Gilbert, that was a follow-up question.
Gilbert, my man. It was great. I walked like 15 miles a day though, so I'm like, is it harder being a tourist than it is a wrestler in these countries?
Lopez Lexi wants to know, what weight do you walk around at compared to your competition weight?
It just depends. So like once I'm in season, I'm probably around 54, 55 kilos. And then off season, I'll get up to 57, 58. And that's kind of just like an over big swing as I naturally like calm down and not just cause my
with cornflakes.
Yeah, exactly. Cornflakes, slow down a bit. So I would say generally I'm walking anywhere from 54 to 57 kilos.
I have a daughter that's 1, so I like this question. What's a good age to get my daughter into wrestling?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think getting them into wrestling, you can't, start early. That's fine. Competing is another thing, and I think that can be discussed like on, family wrestler basis. But like, wrestling is so good for just body awareness. It's fun. It teaches kids a lot of amazing things. Just throw them in wrestling, let them roll around. Like, I don't know when kids. I don't know a lot. Like, when do kids like walking?
I mean, they'll kind of tell you, my son's 2.5, and I'll be working and be like, Daddy, come wrestle me. I'm like, I don't want to. I'm working. He's like, no, come wrestle me. Like, okay, maybe we should get you so you can start wrestle some kids.
Yes, and it's such a natural. Like, my niece and nephew are the same way. They're 3, and they're just like constantly asking me to wrestle them, and I'm like, take them, let them go wrestle. Like, it's fun. They enjoy it. Competing is another game, but starting just wrestling, I think you can start as soon as they're, rolling around asking to wrestle.
This is a good one. What was your mindset specifically for the gold medal match?
That is a good one. For me, it was just kind of like I was saying, like just being open and letting emotions come and be what they are, and slide to the side and just taking it all in, like, holy cow, this is so fun. Like what a world, what an experience. Like, I want to experience the whole spectrum, whatever's coming up. I'm so lucky to experience it, whether it's nerves or fear or excitement or gratitude, like, let's just feel all of this. And that's kind of what my mindset was. Obviously then, you filter in game plans and technical stuff.
Yeah. I thought your phone died. It's all right. We'll edit that out. All right. We got a final few questions, and then I'll let you go. What's a move you often drill and almost never use in competition?
Ooh, I like that. Often drill, but never use in competition. Probably like a double leg, but I don't really drill. I don't know. Like, it's more so maybe not like finishes. So
Yeah.
like maybe I'm in on a single leg, and you know that where you kind of like go behind the back and just like that kind of finish, or
Yeah.
little leg sweep stuff. I don't really use those very much, but it's funny because there's moves you do when you drill, and they're just kind of like bad drill habits, and then they're never gonna do this. I'm just being lazy at practice, and I catch myself on those a lot. So mostly like little finishes where I'm maybe tired and not working.
So you're gonna hit a leg sweep the next competition if there is one. We'll hit one of those.
That'll be big time.
Any tips for wrestling with confidence or not freaking out before your match?
I guess kind of just with like in line what I've been saying, like, you want to have confidence, but being okay if that's not there. Like, it's okay. I will tell you with certainty, the day before the Olympics, I bawled crying because I was so afraid. Like, that's what I kept saying. I'm scared. I'm so scared. And that is like, to somebody maybe looks like I don't have a lot of confidence, but I did. There's lots of things, but I don't think we need to be dependent on like feeling a certain way, because that's not trustworthy. Like, you don't know how you're on competition day. So not judging what shows up, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't get to project into results. It's just that's what you feel. And now you have to take effective actions to get to your goals. So instead of being caught up in looking for confidence or motivation or whatever, let whatever is be what it is, and take actions towards your goals.
I like this question. When are your Rudis shoes coming out?
Ooh, I have something in the works.
There was a lot of people talking about you having a shoe and Emmett having a shoe, and I said the good thing is they already have the Rudis deal, so stay tuned to Rudis. Here, the last question is, I don't think it's the same person. Maybe it is the real Sync. I don't know if they asked this, but somebody asked this when Jesse Mendez was on the podcast, and I believe it got brought up with Nick Lee as well. Is Indiana wrestling underrated?
Duh.
I mean, you heard the names I just mentioned. You see the person I'm talking to.
Okay, I swear, and people love to hate on Indiana. I get mad when people say this, but you got to give some props to Indiana. I think we have a really successful senior level wrestlers, like a ton. In general, the state of Indiana showed out at the Olympics in all sports, so just shout out to that. But I mean, also just high school level. I don't follow high school wrestling anymore, but obviously it's an incredibly difficult high school tournament. It's only one division. You got a lot of really talented people in there. But just looking at our senior level success, I mean, me and Kayla have been on the last 2 Olympic teams. That's crazy. We're making up a third of the Olympic team.
It's wild.
What?
Here's a fun fact. I love AI. I use AI everywhere I can. And AI is like searching Wikipedia, searching Google all in one. And if you type in to ChatGPT, who are the best wrestlers ever from Indiana? Nope. And it says Indiana's produced several top-tier wrestlers who have made their mark in collegiate international wrestling. Some of the best wrestlers from Indiana include number 1, Angel Escobedo. Number 2, Sarah Hildebrandt. You are AI's second best wrestler from Indiana. 3rd is Andrew Howe. 4 is Jason DeTursitz. 5 is Blake Maher. 6 is Reese Humphrey. So you have officially made the artificial intelligence list of making your mark on Indiana wrestling. That's pretty cool. And it says, cool. I'll read you the quick description for Sarah Hildebrandt. A native of Granger, Indiana, Hildebrandt is one of the top female wrestlers in the world. She is a multi-time world championship medalist and just won a medal at the 2024 Olympics. Sarah has been a dominant force in women's wrestling for Team USA.
Oh,
I'm Team
wow.
AI. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's when you know you've made it, when AI's putting you in the answers. And good questions, too. Not the bad ones, Oh, you don't want that.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, well, we got a lot of fan questions. People should be happy with that. You don't know what you're doing next. That's a big question mark still. What is next for Sarah Hildebrandt right now? Is it just riding the Olympic wave? What is next right now?
Yeah, I do have a lot of travel coming up, so there's that, which I'm excited about. It'll be fun stuff. But yeah, beyond that, I think just kind of enjoying life. Like if I can slow it down when I'm at home, I want to slow it down. I want to move slow. I want to enjoy all the yummy fall flavored foods. I want to spend time with my family. Like, I feel like they've gotten they've obviously got to experience the Olympics, but it can be hard sometimes. Like, I feel like chasing this goal can be a little selfish. And then once it's finally done, there's so many other things that demand your attention that they're still kind of put on the back burner. So oh gosh, like, I don't want to keep giving you the worst version of me. So just showing up for them, and obviously they deserve everything and all the love and attention and anything and then some. So I really just want to spend time with the fam bam. So moving slow is
I have to say, you've earned it. I mean, it's not often, like, not many people get that sense of, like, you hit a life goal. It's something you dream about your whole life, and then you do it at 30 years old. And it's like, okay, now life goes on. Now I get to enjoy it. I get to brainstorm more. Like, that's a crazy thing that most people don't get.
Totally. No, exactly. So I'm excited. I'm going to read books. I'm going to journal, meditate, sit in my hammock. Like, I'm really, really just going to slow it down and just see what comes up. See if, where my heart's at, and not judge anything that comes up, really. And just, eat some good food.
Not for nothing, I'm not going to sway you one way or another, but you're only 30. Burroughs just made another world team at 36. Sounds like you got to go at least 6 more years. No pressure.
My boyfriend's in the other room. He's going to come turn the phone.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much. This was fun. I took up a lot of your time today, but I think the fans are really going to like this one. Any final words here before I let you go?
Oh my gosh, really just thank you. Thank you to you specifically for all you do, your graphics, the information you're spreading, the stories you're telling. Like, seriously, thank you, and appreciate you having me on. I was looking forward to this. It's so fun to catch up with you always.
I know. It's like, it's one of those things where, like, I need to do it, like, more. Like, I need to come up with more excuses. Like, okay, what else besides winning Olympic gold? Like, let's make it a more regular thing.
Yeah, I'm totally down for it. We can do a book club talk. I'm telling you.
I'm getting more and more requests for book recommendations. Like, if I do an interview or something here or there where I'm the guest, which I don't like, but like, you read any good books? And I'm like, I open up my Kindle app. I'm like, oh, these are the ones that are downloaded. I don't read. I do listen to some books, but
it's like, you have children and a job and you're doing this. It's like, when do I don't know what you're expecting.
All right, so for the book nerds, final question. For the book nerds, if you had one book recommendation right now, what is it?
Ooh, I would say I would start with The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. He has the 5th book in this series coming out in November. They're so freaking good. The Way of Kings is the first one. Don't be intimidated. It's like 900 pages. Just commit. Go.
What do you mean, don't be intimidated? 900 pages? What?
Just a very casual weekend read.
Yeah, no. I'm understanding now why you flew to Japan. You had to, just to read this book.
Yeah. No, these books are so good. You're gonna get, like, not even 100 pages, then you're gonna be like, I need this to be 900 more pages. They're so good. So good. Brandon Sanderson. Jump into Brandon Sanderson world and you'll be, like, covered for books for forever.
There you have it. Brandon Sanderson, not to be confused with Cal Sanderson, The Way of Kings. Yeah. All right, everybody go follow Sarah. I'm going to link everything up below. And if she does make the decision to retire, we'll get a nice graphic for that. So follow us both, and we'll keep you updated, guys. All right, Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
And the beat goes on.